Bangkok, Thailand. July 2nd, 1997, Wednesday morning. The Ministry of Finance building sits in the heart of the government district when Thailand's finance minister, Thanong Bidaya, steps to the podium and says 5 words that will dominate global headlines for weeks. George Soros is a war criminal. What happens in the next 2 minutes at a New York press conference doesn't just defend against the accusation, it exposes the real cause of Asia's economic collapse and forces a global reckoning with how financial crises actually work. The press conference room is packed. 200 journalists squeezed into space designed for 80. Thai reporters, international wire services, CNN, BBC, Bloomberg terminals glowing in the back corner. The air conditioning struggles against Bangkok's oppressive heat and the body warmth of anxious bodies. Camera flashes pop like small explosions. The smell of sweat and cigarette smoke mingles with the sharp scent of fear that's been building in this room for weeks. Minister Thanong sits behind a wooden podium, 52 years old, MIT economics degree, expensive suit, silk tie, gold cufflinks, the uniform of competence. But his hands shake slightly as he grips the podium edges, dark circles under his eyes. He hasn't slept properly in 6 days. Everyone in this room knows what's happening. The Thai baht is collapsing. The currency pegged to the US dollar that Thailand defended for over a decade is breaking. Capital is fleeing at rates that make economic models look like children's drawings. Thanong talks about economic fundamentals, about Thailand's strong growth trajectory. The words sound hollow, then his tone changes, hardens. He leans into the microphone. But these market movements are not natural. They are the result of deliberate manipulation by foreign speculators who are attacking Asian economies for profit. The room goes electric. This is the soundbite they came for. These speculators, led by hedge fund managers like George Soros, are engaged in economic warfare against developing nations. They are deliberately destroying the savings of ordinary Thai people. Destroying jobs. Destroying families. He pauses for effect. The room is dead silent except for camera shutters. George Soros and speculators like him are economic war criminals. They must be held accountable. Thailand will be requesting international prosecution for economic crimes against developing nations. The press conference explodes. Journalists shouting questions. Thanong walks out through a side door. Within 20 minutes, the story is everywhere. CNN breaking news. Bloomberg terminals flashing alerts. Thai minister calls Soros war criminal. The story has everything. David versus Goliath. Rich Western investor destroying poor Asian nation. Economic crisis with a villain's face attached. New York City. Same day. 10:52 p.m. Eastern Time. The offices of Soros Fund Management occupy several floors of a midtown Manhattan tower, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. George Soros sits in his private office. Corner office, understated elegance, books lining one wall, philosophy and economics mixed together. He's 66 years old, wearing reading glasses, simple white shirt with sleeves rolled up, grey hair, lean build. He's watching CNN, the clip of Thanong calling him a war criminal. He's seen it 3 times already. The chyron scrolling beneath, hedge fund manager accused of economic terrorism. His expression doesn't change. No anger, no surprise, just calm focus. He's seen this script before. Being blamed for exposing a problem is easier for politicians than fixing the problem. His chief of staff, Sarah Chen, stands near the door. She's been fielding phone calls for 2 hours, press requests, statements from other Asian finance ministers piling on, a senator calling for hearings. Every major outlet wants a statement, Sarah says quietly. The Asian American Legal Defense Fund is demanding you respond. There's talk of demonstrations tomorrow. Soros removes his glasses, rubs his eyes. He's been awake for 19 hours tracking the Asian markets, running models, watching what he predicted 6 months ago unfold exactly as the mathematics indicated. Schedule a press conference, he says. His voice carries a distinct Hungarian accent. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Sarah hesitates. George, our lawyers are advising against any public statement. They're concerned about legal exposure, especially with international prosecution threats. I'm not interested in what lawyers think is safe. I'm interested in what's true. The minister is lying. Not about me specifically, about everything, about why this crisis is happening, about who's responsible. When powerful people lie about economics, real people suffer. But there's something else. The accusation of war criminal. He, a Holocaust survivor who spent his teenage years with forged papers dodging Nazi deportations in Budapest, who watched his community destroyed, is now being compared to those who commit atrocities. The irony is sharp. Painful. The truth, Soros says. Just the truth. The next morning, July 3rd, 1997, 9:47 a.m. Soros Fund Management Conference Room. The space has been transformed. Chairs arranged in rows. More than 100 journalists packed into a room designed for 50. Standing room only. The energy is electric, predatory. Everyone smells blood in the water. George Soros enters at exactly 10 a.m. Same, simple attire, white shirt, dark slacks, no tie, no power suit. He walks calmly to the podium, doesn't look nervous, doesn't look defensive, looks like a professor about to deliver a lecture on a subject he knows better than anyone else in the room. The room quiets, cameras zoom in. This is the moment. The accused economic war criminal responding to international accusations. Soros adjusts the microphone, looks directly at the cameras. His eyes are clear, steady. Yesterday, Thailand's finance minister called me an economic war criminal. He demanded my prosecution for deliberately destroying the Thai economy and attacking Asian nations for profit. Pause. Let it hang. Let me explain what actually happened, not what the minister claims, what the data shows, what basic economics predicts. Another pause. Camera shutters clicking. Thailand pegged its currency, the baht, to the US dollar at approximately 25 baht per dollar. To maintain this peg while the dollar strengthened globally, Thailand needed either strong economic fundamentals or large foreign currency reserves. They had neither. He's not reading notes, speaking from pure understanding. Thailand was running a current account deficit of over 8% of GDP. They were importing far more than they exported, borrowing money from abroad to finance consumption and speculative investment. Normally, this would cause a currency to depreciate, but Thailand was preventing that natural adjustment by defending the peg. Some reporters take notes, others just watch. Simultaneously, Thai banks were making dollar-denominated loans to finance baht real estate development. Think about what this means. If you borrow dollars to build a building you'd sell for baht, and the baht depreciates, suddenly you owe far more in baht terms than your asset is worth. The entire banking system becomes insolvent the moment the peg breaks. A reporter raises his hand. Soros ignores it. He's building an argument, brick by brick. By early 1997, Thailand's foreign currency reserves were depleting rapidly. They were spending billions defending the peg against market pressure. Not pressure from speculators specifically. Pressure from reality. The fundamentals were unsustainable. Anyone could see it. I saw it. Dozens of economists saw it. The IMF saw it and warned them. Thai officials saw it and denied it. His voice remains calm, measured. No anger, just patient truth. On July 2nd, the Bank of Thailand capitulated. They couldn't defend the peg anymore. They'd burned through their reserves. The baht collapsed, losing 20% of its value in hours. Banks holding dollar debt became insolvent. Companies that borrowed dollars couldn't repay. The financial system seized up. Now he leans into the microphone. This is the key point. The minister claims I caused this crisis. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not create Thailand's current account deficit. I did not force Thai banks to make dollar-denominated loans. I did not deplete Thailand's foreign reserves. I did not maintain an unsustainable currency peg for a decade, against all economic logic. Pause. Let that sink in. What I did do was recognize that these policies were unsustainable. I recognized that the peg would break. And yes, I took positions in the market reflecting that analysis. That's not speculation. That's not economic warfare. That's called understanding reality. A reporter shouts a question. Soros holds up one hand. Here's what the minister doesn't want to acknowledge. The crisis would have happened without me. It would have happened without any foreign investors. The mathematics guaranteed it. You cannot maintain a currency peg while running massive deficits and depleting reserves. It's not sustainable. Reality doesn't care about political will or national pride. Now his tone shifts. Still calm, but with an edge. The minister is not angry at me for causing the crisis. He's angry at me for being right about his failed policies. I exposed the problem. And rather than acknowledge the structural failures, rather than take responsibility for years of poor policy decisions, he finds it easier to blame foreign speculators. Soros steps back slightly. The core argument is made. This is a pattern you'll see repeatedly in economic crises. Governments make unsustainable policy decisions. They defend those decisions long after the data shows they're failing, and when reality finally breaks through, they look for someone external to blame. He gestures toward the cameras. Speculators, foreign investors, market manipulation, economic warfare. These are the words politicians use when they don't want to admit they destroyed their own economy through incompetence or corruption. The room is completely silent. This isn't what they expected. Let me address the war criminal accusation directly. I am a Holocaust survivor. I spent my teenage years in Nazi-occupied Budapest with forged papers, watching my community destroyed. To compare recognizing an unsustainable currency peg to war crimes is not just factually wrong, it's morally obscene. There's steel in his voice now, not anger, something colder. War criminals destroy lives for ideological goals. I identified economic reality and positioned accordingly. The Thai government destroyed their own economy through policy failures. They're destroying Thai people's savings and jobs, not me, them. And calling me a war criminal is their attempt to avoid accountability. He pauses, takes a breath. Back to the calm professor tone. Now, some will ask, even if you're right about the economics, isn't profiting from a crisis immoral? This is a fair question. This is where the moral complexity becomes uncomfortable. Markets serve a function. They aggregate information. They price risk. They force price discovery. When a government defends an unsustainable policy, markets push back. That's not moral or immoral. It's mechanical. It's mathematical. He leans forward. Thailand could have adjusted their policies months ago, years ago. They could have let the baht depreciate gradually. They could have restricted bank lending. They could have built larger reserves. Instead, they defended the indefensible until the crisis became catastrophic. The longer they waited, the worse the collapse. Now comes the philosophical core. I didn't create the suffering in Thailand. The structural imbalances created the suffering. What I did was accelerate the recognition of those imbalances. The crisis was coming regardless. The only question was timing. Early recognition means earlier adjustment, which means less total suffering. Late recognition means catastrophic collapse. A reporter from the Financial Times raises her hand. He nods. Mr. Soros, you're saying you helped Thailand by forcing the crisis sooner. I'm saying the crisis was inevitable. Market pressure simply forced Thailand to confront reality instead of continuing to deny it. Yes, that confrontation is painful. But the alternative, continuing unsustainable policies until the reserves were completely depleted, would have been worse. Another reporter, Asian man from Singapore, but you profited. Billions. Reportedly. Soros looks at him directly. No evasion. I run an investment fund. Fiduciary responsibility to my investors. When I see unsustainable policies, I position accordingly. That's my job. The profit is the outcome of being correct about reality. And, yes, I made money. I also fund open society initiatives across Asia, supporting democracy, education, transparent governance. A Thai reporter stands. His voice carries emotion. Easy to talk about economics from New York. You're not the one who lost your job. You're not the Thai worker whose factory closed. You made billions while we suffered. Silence. The moral core laid bare. Soros lets the question hang, respects it. You're right. I'm not experiencing the direct suffering. I'm insulated by wealth. But let me ask you, who created the conditions for that suffering? Did I force Thailand to maintain an unsustainable peg? Did I force banks to make dollar loans? The reporter starts to respond. Soros continues. The suffering in Thailand is real. It's profound. But the cause is not foreign investors recognizing reality. The cause is the government policies that created the crisis. If you want accountability, demand it from the officials who made those decisions. Don't let them redirect your anger toward external scapegoats. The Thai reporter sits down, doesn't look satisfied. An economist from The Economist raises his hand. Doesn't market pressure create a race to the bottom? Don't countries need capital controls? Capital controls are band-aids on structural problems. What prevents crisis is sound policy, sustainable debt levels, appropriate currency regimes, banking regulation. These are not Western impositions. These are mathematical necessities. Sarah Chen makes a subtle gesture. Time. But Soros has one more point. Here's what I want everyone to understand. This pattern has played out in Mexico in 1994. It's playing out right now in Indonesia, South Korea, Malaysia. It will play out in Russia next year. It will keep playing out until policymakers learn the lesson. He counts on his fingers. You cannot borrow in foreign currency to finance domestic speculation indefinitely. You cannot maintain currency pegs that don't reflect fundamentals. When crisis comes, blaming external forces doesn't fix internal problems. The longer you deny reality, the worse the eventual crash. He looks around the room, sees skepticism, anger, some understanding. Let me say one more thing about the war criminal accusation. When governments fail, they look for scapegoats. Always. It's easier to blame foreigners than fix problems. It's easier to blame speculators than acknowledge policy failures. His voice carries weight now. This scapegoating is dangerous, not because it hurts me personally, but because it prevents learning. If Thailand's government convinces their people that foreign speculators caused the crisis, then Thailand learns nothing. They'll make the same mistakes again. They won't fix the structural problems. They'll just wait for the next boom and crash again. He looks directly into the cameras. Real accountability means acknowledging mistakes. It means understanding causes, not just symptoms. And until governments are willing to do that, these crises will keep happening. Sarah makes another gesture. Really time now. I'll take a few more questions. Is he worried about prosecution? No, because there's no crime. Will he continue trading Asian currencies? If the fundamentals warrant it. Does he feel moral responsibility? Responsibility to his investors? Yes. Responsibility for government policy failures? No. Then a young Thai reporter asks, have you seen the footage from Bangkok? The protests? The people who lost everything? Do you think about them? Soros pauses. This is the question with no good answer. I think about the systemic causes. I think about how to prevent future crises. Do I think about individual suffering in the moment of trading? Honestly, no. If I did, I couldn't function. But afterward, yes, which is why I fund education, governance reform, because I want to help create systems where these crises happen less frequently. It's not satisfying, he knows that, but it's honest. Thank you all for coming. He steps away, walks out. Sarah stays behind to manage the aftermath. The story explodes across global media, 2 competing narratives. Narrative 1. Soros defends market function, exposes Thai policy failures, provides economics lesson. Narrative 2. Billionaire defends profiting from suffering, shows callousness of global capital. The Thai government doubles down. Minister Thanong calls the press conference arrogant Western condescension. Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir calls Soros a moron. Indonesia echoes the sentiment. But something else happens. Economists start publishing analyses. IMF reports circulate. Academic papers appear. And they all say Soros was right about the fundamentals. Thailand's policies were unsustainable. The crisis was inevitable. Within 2 weeks, the Financial Times runs a detailed investigation, finds massive corruption in Thailand's banking system, finds politically connected lending, finds that Thanong's own family benefited from the real estate boom, finds government officials ignored warnings because maintaining the illusion was politically convenient. Within a month, the IMF agrees to a bailout, but the conditions require exactly the reforms Soros described: banking regulation, currency flexibility, transparency measures, the very policies that would have prevented the crisis. Within 6 months, 3 other Asian economies collapse: Indonesia, South Korea, Malaysia. Each time officials blame speculators. Each time investigations show the same structural problems. Each time, the IMF bailout requires the same reforms. Minister Thanong resigns in November 1997, 4 months after calling Soros a war criminal. The resignation comes amid revelations about his family's holdings, his conflicts of interest, his role in defending the peg long after it was clearly unsustainable. He doesn't mention Soros, doesn't apologize, just steps aside. But the conspiracy theories don't die. They grow. In certain circles, Soros becomes the villain, the proof that capitalism is rigged, the face of Western imperialism. The theories grow disconnected from economic reality, rooted in anti-Semitic tropes, useful to politicians who need someone to blame. Soros watches this happen, watches his name become shorthand for financial villainy in communities that never read his books, never studied his positions, never engaged with the economic arguments. It bothers him. Not because he needs people to like him, because the scapegoating prevents the learning he hoped for. By 2010, the academic consensus is clear. The Asian financial crisis was caused by structural imbalances, not by speculative attacks. The IMF publishes this. Economics journals publish this. World Bank publishes this. It becomes standard in textbooks. But in popular culture, in political rhetoric, Soros remains the villain, the man who broke Thailand. The story is cleaner that way, simpler. It has a face to hate. Thailand recovers, takes about a decade. Reforms are implemented, banking regulation strengthened, currency policy becomes flexible. The country learns, slowly, painfully, expensively. So here's the question. Was George Soros an economic war criminal? Or was he a clear-thinking analyst who recognized unsustainable policies? The honest answer is, both interpretations contain truth. Neither captures full reality. He didn't cause the crisis. The structural imbalances caused it. But he profited while millions suffered. That's uncomfortable. That should be uncomfortable. He was right about the economics, completely right, provably right, but being right about systems doesn't address individual suffering. Explaining why someone lost their job doesn't give it back. He exposed government failures, but he also gave those governments a scapegoat, which might have prevented deeper reforms. He serves a market function, price discovery, reality enforcement, but markets are amoral. Should we celebrate functions that hurt people, even if mathematically necessary? These tensions don't resolve, they coexist. George Soros contains multitudes: Holocaust survivor and billionaire profiteer, philosopher and speculator, democracy advocate and market predator, right about economics and blind to suffering, teacher of hard lessons and target of conspiracy theories. The Thai finance minister was wrong about the economics, wrong about the causes, wrong about the solutions. But he was right that Soros represented something deeply troubling: the way that understanding systems can become a tool for extracting wealth from crisis, the way that being correct can be profitable even when correctness hurts people. 25 years later, we're still arguing about it, still trying to reconcile mathematical correctness with moral complexity. Maybe that's the real lesson. Not that Soros was right or wrong, but that economic reality is often cruel, that exposing lies is necessary but painful, that serving market functions creates moral burdens, and that being the messenger of bad news gets you blamed for the news itself. Thailand built an economy on sand. George Soros pointed at the sand. The wind blew. The structure collapsed. Was Soros the wind? Or was he just the first to notice what the wind would do? Depends on who you ask. Depends on whether you lost your savings. Depends on whether you believe markets serve society or society serves markets. There's no clean answer. Just the messy truth that sometimes the people right about systems are least equipped to understand suffering, and sometimes the people most hurt by crisis are least able to understand its causes, and sometimes being correct makes you a villain, and sometimes scapegoating prevents learning. George Soros was called an economic war criminal in July 1997. His 2-minute response explained the economics perfectly. But perfect economic explanations don't satisfy the need for justice when people are suffering, don't address the asymmetry of someone making billions while others lose everything. The crisis eventually passed. The reforms eventually happened. The economies eventually recovered. George Soros moved on to the next trade, the next crisis, the next opportunity to be right in ways that make him rich and hated simultaneously. And somewhere in Thailand, someone who lost their job in 1997 still blames George Soros. And somewhere else, an economist teaching the Asian financial crisis explains that structural imbalances were unsustainable and market pressure was inevitable. And both of them are right. And neither can hear the other. And that's where we still are.